In this episode of Wisdom Personified Conversations with Dudu Msomi, I'm speaking to Natasia and Skye Mc Mahon. The bond between mother and daughter is unique. Skye attended Roedean School of Girls from the time she was 5 years old, all the way to Matric. Her parents ensured she was exposed to sports, culture, music, and academics. She played the piano from the age of 5, completed the Royal School's exam, and even joined a jazz band. Skye has a passion for social justice, reading, and helping people, making her choice to study law an easy one. She holds a Bachelor of Arts and is now studying LLB at Wits. Natasia is a highly seasoned, highly motivated and accomplished executive consultant at Cornelda Holding, which is a renowned one-stop shop that serves clients' maritime and logistic needs. Based in Rotterdam, the Netherlands. She holds an honors degree in finance and a postgraduate certificate in public-private partnership finance. The two of you, how are you?
Good.
So very well.
Thank you so much for making the time.
Thanks for having us.
You know, I had to hijack you because, going back to the Netherlands, I needed to use the moment.
Perfect timing.
So, where were the two of you born? And what is the heritage of your interesting surname, which doesn't... I wonder if there's another Mc Mahon in South Africa?
Hardly many. The origins are Irish. My ex-husband is of Irish descent. His grandfather came across here during the Second World War, and was in Her Majesty's Army. He was an engineer in the army.
Interesting. Irish heritage. So, but where were you born?
I was born in Johannesburg in South Africa, as was Skye. My parents, my dad is half Zulu and half Portuguese, Mozambican Portuguese.
Combination of it all. Yeah.
His mother was half Zulu and half Jewish. So that's what happens on that side of my family. And my mom has also an interesting mix of French and Khoi.
Oh my
Croissant.
God.
And then my dad is coloured and Irish. So that's my mix.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing when you watch like TikTok and other things, and especially Americans, they have a problem with this whole color thing.
Yes.
And just trying to understand, what is this race are you guys talking about?
You should imagine from my perspective how it is. My name is Natasia Mc Mahon.
Yeah, and it's spelled Natasia, yeah.
And this blackface arrives and people are looking for Natasia Mc Mahon, but here I am.
It's me. So just as we're talking about these categories, whether it's race, gender, class, religion, how are you most interacting in the world? How are you most received based on what you observe? And what is that quality of interaction? And I'm quite interested because you spend so much time in the Netherlands. What is that experience in South Africa versus in the Netherlands, whatever category of identification you choose?
So in South Africa, we're very aware of race and the different categories of race.
And vocabulary around race.
Yes.
So I think that coming from a society that's hyper-conscious of race and then going to a society that is conscious of it, but not with the vocabulary that we have speaking about race.
Correct. And also they don't have the sensitivities around it. One of the examples I can give you are there's certain celebrations that they have that might be insensitive to you and I and hurtful. And I now have to navigate the space to find my way. How will I interact with it? What will my boundary be when it comes to it? Do I either not attend the event or do I voice the fact that it is actually insensitive? Thankfully enough, the family in the Netherlands are very sensitive to, because I'm very vocal. And I will say this celebration is offensive, and they actually try to communicate it to the rest of the family. because I can't be silent about it. I need to also find my space in that family.
Yeah.
And I guess it's a challenge for them, but thankfully they receive it well.
Because we have a strong Dutch influence in South Africa for people that actually don't understand why there should be that sensitivity. Yeah. Okay, very interesting. Skye, what were your hobbies before your preteen years, and how did they shape your character?
I would say that my hobbies included baking. I love spending time in the kitchen. Yeah, so I loved just that the recipe was a science, and if you followed the recipe, then you got the outcome, and if you didn't follow the recipe, then the cake didn't look the way that the cake was supposed to look.
So even a jagre, I tried jagre. I just forgot the yeast.
And then once nothing rice,
And it didn't come out. Never mind, moving on.
So there was that, there was horse riding, I did a bit of dancing and gymnastics as well. I think all of those things just taught me to be very tenacious and patient and to enjoy the learning bits of things and wanting to see the outcome at the end. So I think that's definitely shaped my life now, because I try and look at things that I put on my plate with the same lens, being patient and wanting to learn from the process as well as what's going to happen at the end.
I'm just now curious, what were your hobbies?
Growing up,
Yeah.
I loved dancing. I was a dancer up until the age of 18. I went to FUBA, Federated Union of Black Artists. My dad ensured that we had a very full and healthy sport and cultural life. And I tried to do the same for my children. Both of them are very active sport-wise, and they like a lot of cultural activities. So my siblings and I did various things in the sports and in the arts field. My brother was a professional boxer. My younger brother did quite well, very well in basketball. So we had the full experience, yeah.
It is interesting because I'm trying to see the evolution of the younger one, you know. Natasha, you have a BCom and an honors in financial management. What was the vision that you had? Because most of the time when you choose subjects, we're thinking, this is how my life is going to go. And has that vision come to pass?
The vision has completely changed. I started out wanting to be an accountant. And in the first year, I said to my dad, not so much, I don't think so. This accounting thing is not going to work out for me. And I changed to financial management, thinking that I will still be within the finance space, but not knowing the depth and the broad sphere that's out there for you to actually engage. And only when I got to Transnet, and I was exposed to projects at the magnitude that I was, did it shape my career and changed my career. And I think what I loved about that experience is that while Transnet was at the time, still is a state-owned entity, it operated like a blue-chip company. So we learned incredible amounts of different aspects of the disciplines we were in. And I can say I was a beneficiary of that, because we were in the time where we were moving away from, having the white engineers and for them to transfer knowledge to black engineers. And I happened to be with an engineer that also understood finance.
Wow.
And he mentored me. Francis Callard, I have to credit him with that. He really took the time to explain things to me. And I'm a curious soul.
Yeah.
I want to know how things work. So there's not a thing about a locomotive and a wagon you can tell me that I don't know.
You're also an expressive soul, so there's not a thing about a locomotive or a wagon I don't know.
Learn by osmosis. Good word. So, Skye, you have a BA law degree, and now you're starting towards your LLB, your second year final. In choosing this qualification, what is the vision are you having for your life?
I think that, similar to my mom, I do definitely see myself as a lawyer. I can't imagine not being in the legal sphere at all. But I do see myself, like my mom, carving out a very special part of the law that I'll fall in love with and want to be very knowledgeable about. And that space is slowly leaning towards the same thing that you do in big projects and infrastructure. So I'm probably
Infrastructure investments and stuff.
Yeah.
Those contracts, fine-tooth comb.
Yes.
it's the best.
Oh my gosh,
Because
that's
it's like a recipe.
Yeah.
You just follow the steps, then it just, the cake rises.
so. You were brought up by predominantly your mother, even though your father was very active in your life, but they were not always under the same roof.
Yes.
Did you carry a sense of grief or loss for not having your father always present? And how did the divorce and the relationship you have observed between your parents influence your view of romantic relationships?
So I don't think I ever felt grief or loss because my dad was so active. So even though he wasn't coming to the same house as me, I knew that he was always around. And I think that my parents were very good at making sure that they were communicating with each other. So I never felt in between, and like an in-betweener, which probably would have made me feel like, oh, this is a very big thing that's happening in my life. You guys were very good at making sure that it was a very seamless transition, and it was just a formality. Like, it's just a thing that happened, and we carry on. You still have to go and practice piano, and you still do your homework, and then you go to bed.
Yeah.
Which I think was good. I think that seeing your relationship go through confrontations and fights, but then also the respect, knowing that you have kids together, definitely made me more communicative in my relationships, whether that be romantic or in my friendships, because I've realized that when you don't say what you mean, there's just too much room for interpretation, and then someone's feelings get hurt because we're not communicating with each other. So I think that my parents' relationship has definitely made me maybe even an over-communicator, because I want to express the way I feel, but also want to hear what the other person is feeling.
Yeah, one thing I can credit to Skye when it comes to that, she's really taught us as a family to communicate better so that we can understand each other and know what the other one is feeling. So post-divorce, that was one of the things I think maybe what you picked up through the divorce, you wanted me to unlearn and relearn new ways of communicating.
Daughter is also the teacher.
Yeah, very much so.
Especially when we're receptive as parents.
Yeah.
Well, not me. You guys as parents.
Which you are.
So, Natasia, how did your perspective about life evolve, about why you believe you are in this world, from before you had children to how you view your life journey with them in it?
I love this question. And I have to tell you that I went through a very grueling process with a life coach to get to what my purpose is. And ever since I was young, I've loved learning, and I like to also transfer knowledge.
Yeah.
I know that I've been brought to this earth to learn, to teach, to love, and to give myself over to a greater purpose.
Yeah.
I think my children have taught me what that greater purpose is, not only in their own individuality, but also for other human beings. And I think what I've always said, my husband and I, our vision for our children was to raise good humans. And if that is the compass, then you get a good outcome, because you're always trying to put them back onto that path. And I think that vision is coming to light. And I like to be open and honest. I wear my heart on my sleeve. It's just how I am. And I think they've received it. So post having the children, I think that was good, that I received some of what I wanted to put out.
So in South Africa, when we look at you, we automatically categorize you as colored. Do you embrace that label for one? And why, whether it's yes or no?
So yes, I do. But there are so many times where people say, what are you? Utswakai. You know? And because my heritage is so mixed, and the way we were raised was with a lot of the aspects of all of our culture in my household in particular and in my family. Most of my siblings and my cousins speak more than 4 languages. Zulu, Sesotho, Portuguese, and my father speaks all 11 and then some. And so when it comes to that aspect of how I identify, yes, I 100% identify as colored. I was raised in a colored community, and I'm so proud of the community that I come from. I'm sad at the state of it right now, but still proud of what I had. And I'll tell you one of the reasons that makes me proud, because they say you survive the location. You're not raised in it, you survive it. And for example, my brothers went to a private school. They went to Inanda, and St. David's Inanda, and they would come home from school, and in the combi that's bringing them home, my father's combi, they would have to remove their blades, remove their tires, because people are, what school is this? And then after that, they would have to go and work in my father's shop, which happened to be a shebeen. So I have the greatest respect for a bottle of beer because it's put me through my education. And it's helped to carve the path for our children. My father insisted that the boys, and we were meant to have private school education as well, but that didn't happen. But the plan was, you have a good educational foundation and your responsibility is to give better to your children, which has been very, very standard amongst us in my siblings.
I definitely identify as being colored. I think that it is the perfect identifier for me just because of the mix. It's a little bit of everything. It's so rich in culture and language and people. So I definitely love being colored. I love the way that I grew up. I love the way that I was brought up. I love the people that I interacted with. So I love being.
Yeah. And people are fascinated. Cape colored, Joburg colored,
yes.
Within the culture, there's those subcultures, and then that people want you to identify. And it's difficult because you oscillate between all of your cultural mixes.
I also think that it's a culture that isn't broadcasted widely. So people are very curious because the only person they're going to be able to ask these questions is someone that's in that culture.
Yeah.
So I think that I love when I do get those questions because then I can expose my culture.
Which is why we're having the conversation. You see, I mean, for me, the fascination is when do you stop being colored? Because when I look at my heritage, whole mixed, and then the way I look, I'm physically African. It's like and then my genetic test is colored, but it's like when do you stop being colored? It's fascinating. But it's the people you identify with. Yeah. So I identify African because it's a society I live in. Still my mother, anyway, mommy. I still respect your race. So Natasia, in the working world, do you feel that you have less opportunities because of your race? Or when you do encounter challenges, what do you usually attribute those to?
Definitely there are challenges because of race and gender. And I've never felt like a token except for one position, which was a global company, a global project management company. And I think initially when I was employed because of my gender and my color. And then soon after I was appointed, they realized that there was a lot more substance and I could I add value. Yes.
And you have an opinion.
And an opinion I have. And in a short period of time, I was promoted and then asked to sit on all of these boards and globally as well on the boards. And I like that I was able to show my worth and to show substance within what it is that I did and how I executed my projects. In general, I didn't really feel like a token ever, but I did feel challenged. Most times, Dudu, I am the only woman at the boardroom table, and most times the only black person in the room.
And infrastructure
Yes.
stuff. It's mainly males.
Yes. But I've learned to own the space, and I mean, I have some interesting anecdotes from when I started at Transnet, and you'll go into a boardroom and there's white engineers sitting there, all older guys, and they will speak in Afrikaans and say, verstaan nie wat ons sê. En dan praat ek ook Afrikaans.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
And then I would say, my Afrikaans is baik. So, ons kan gesels, you know. And
that helps usually.
It helps, and people get respect for you. And one of the things my mother's very, very firm on is to respect the language. So if you're going to speak Afrikaans, you know, do it properly. Don't use English words, or ask what the Afrikaans word should be. And now I'm learning Dutch, and I need to navigate my way between the two languages that are similar, but
different.
Completely different. Yeah.
And then next year we're learning Flemish.
Yes.
So Skye, in your generation, Gen Z, how do you interact with the label of colored and race in general? Do you think the fact that you went to Roedean, which is an independent school, does that influence your worldview in terms of race?
I think that going to Roedean definitely expanded my worldview immensely. I don't think I would have been exposed to the things that I was exposed to had it not been for Roedean, which I've got a lot of appreciation for. I do think that there's still a lot of stereotypes and generalizations that perpetuate, particularly to do with the colored race and cultural group. So I think that it's been very difficult for me to have conversations with people my age because it usually is characterized by a generalization or stereotype, and it just gets exhausting sometimes. So I'd rather just not have that conversation. It's just both be respectful and then like talk about something else. So I think that there's still a lot of unlearning that needs to happen. And in as much as I loved going to Roedean and the subjects that we do, I don't think that it did enough to expose all of the girls to the different racial groups in South Africa. And when we were learning about apartheid, it was very much a white v black instead of this is what was going on. These are the different race groups that were interacting with each other, which I think was detrimental because at the end of the day, we are interacting with each other now, and the way that you view someone is based on these things that you learn at home. So I do think that that has been a bit of a challenge, but I'm still always excited to talk about where I come from and why it is that I speak the way that I speak and why it is that I have the values that I have, which I attribute a lot to the colored community that I grew up in. I don't think the respect that I have for another human being and just the appreciation for other people is what I grew up with, which I love.
I like the anecdote you had when we were having a chat about a drunk lady with a bottle of beer in her hand. If you disrespect a colored lady, she's
going to tell you. No, she's going to tell you that you are being disrespectful.
Yeah, just upfront.
Yeah.
All those stereotypes. I mean, when you started talking beer bottle, you kind of think alcohol, criminality, all the negative stereotypes.
Yes, which is what I think is easier to perpetuate, that those things are easier to communicate to people. People don't want to, sometimes it feels like people don't want to learn about what this group of people actually looks like when you take all of those things away. Because colored people are so much more than that. There are obviously bad things that are happening
like in those groups,
in any community. But I think that it's been a community that's been characterized by those bad things, and they're like the lost souls. Like, unfortunately, they are just bad people. But that's not what's happening at all.
Yeah. And then I think an important thing to add to particularly around the shebeens, and I mean, as Black people, we know that it was a industry that started out of struggle and out of wanting to create employment within not only the colored community, but the Black community as well. My grandmother, for example, was referred to in Western Kala Township, where my father was raised as Diamond Lady, she made nkomboti. I know how to make nkomboti. My cousins know how to make nkomboti. And we all know and respect it. We had a good life, a reasonable life compared to our peers because of all of these aspects of our family trying to be entrepreneurial and trying to give us a better life. And so I don't think any of us stand out too badly.
Yeah.
You know?
But it's also the industries that were allowed.
Yeah.
So those, alcohol was also for the benefit of the oppressor.
Correct.
Kind of thing. So to both of you, the dynamic relationship of mother and daughter can become complex. and especially as we grow and evolve. So Natasia, how do you navigate the relationship with Skye, particularly in setting boundaries as a mother rather than a friend?
It's always been important to me to have an open relationship with my children. I wanted to do it as well and as differently as my parents did it. Because we didn't really have open communication when we were growing up. In our generation, adulting was very disciplinary focused. And now we had to learn to talk to our children, and we needed to learn to have and to respect their boundaries. So navigating that initially, especially when they get into their teen years, was hard. And having a son, you needed to have discipline, but also to have the conversation. So we really set boundaries for each other, but ensure that we have a good enough and open enough communication line. And again, I attribute that to Skye, because she will say, stop at the bus, let's have the conversation. And I think as a mom, it's important always for me to keep that boundary and also to respect her space.
Yeah. So in terms of you, Skye, has your relationship with your mom ever been characterized by conflict and tension? If yes, what was the main cause from your perspective? And if no, why do you think that's so?
I definitely think that there was a period, especially when I was coming into my own as a young adult and still living under the same roof as my mom. So there was a bit of tension
when they tell us you under my roof. Yeah, okay.
And then I want to go out.
Yes.
I'm not a young adult, and then you're phoning me to ask me where I am. But I've told you where I am.
Curfew though. Curfew.
My home, my rules.
Yes. So I definitely think that it was, but it was because we needed to start learning the setting of boundaries, respecting of boundaries, communicating that there is a boundary instead of just setting it and then not saying anything, so that you are constantly disrespecting the boundary because you just don't know
washing again.
Yeah, you just don't know what it is. So I think that it definitely was for a period, but we were very good at making sure that our objective was resolution. Our objective was for our relationship to always be better, because I can't imagine my life without my mom. I don't ever want to not be speaking to my mom because we're fighting. So I think that we both had that goal of, okay, we are fighting because there's something that we need to learn here, which was good.
Yeah, and I think, Dudu, one of the things that I observed in my family, particularly, I would say both sides of the family, both parents, there can be a bad habit of not speaking to people just because you haven't had a communication.
You've decided that you're angry and you're very comfortable being angry.
Yes.
I think we were very good at making sure that we didn't ever become comfortable being angry with each other.
Yeah. So I didn't want that cycle to continue because it started to filter through. But one thing my sister and I did really well was, not very long ago, it was when I got divorced, and her and I made a conscious compact between the two of us that we would never stay angry with each other long enough not to have a conversation. Yeah. And it completely changed the dynamic of our relationship. We are so open, so honest. We have tough conversations, and when I do something that she doesn't like, she picks up the phone.
Yeah.
As early as April last year, I got a tongue lashing from her that she didn't like how something went down, and said to me, you will do X, Y, and Z. And part of our culture, we listen to our elders. She's my older sister. She's my mother's firstborn. She's the boss of the family. So I had to do what she did.
Yeah.
And it actually resolved the issue very quickly. Well, for those who wanted to participate in resolution.
Yeah, Mom had the rule you were not allowed to kind of leave the room, whatever, angry. There were moments. I remember one time I wanted to go back to university, and so she took the car keys, so I couldn't drive. And I was like, but, that was the rule. But the one thing, as you're talking, I nearly got a bit teary, because the rule was that, so is it 3 days before my sister died? So she called, and 3 a.m., I usually switch off my phone. And I left it on, and she called, and she said, are we fighting? I said, no, because we had a disagreement. She didn't want to do something. So I said, it's your life. I love you very much, but I can't live your life for you, so we're not fighting. And she said, because when I'm gone, I don't want you to play this over and over. Remember, this woman is not terminally sick. So, but I didn't think that was strange, and I put down the phone. So 3 days when she did die in my arms, it's almost like a full circle moment. Yes. So I always tell people that, because you just don't know what the next second is going to do. That's a very good example. Listen to your elders, but she was 5 years older.
I also like the way the coloured in your mom came out to discipline you, girl.
Not driving anywhere.
She literally, I was almost in tears. I think, but anyway, it's a good thing. So Skye, mothers usually serve as a primary role models as daughters. What do you admire most about your mom that you hope to emulate when you are more mature?
You're going to cry when I say this.
Oh, gosh.
But I can't remember if it's an article or a novel that I read by Jane Flax. It was about the relationship between moms and daughters. And I was reading a lot about this dynamic, especially when we were going through our tumultuous, us being angry with each other. And a quote that stuck out with me was, moms and daughters exist as wretched mirrors of each other, because I am everything you could have been and you are everything I could be. And I would always think, that's not true, that's not true, that's not true. But it is, in a way, because I love that you're my reflection. I love that I learn so much from you every day, and I would think that by now I would have learned whatever I needed to learn, but I love that you are my friend, my therapist, my confidant, my teacher, my mentor. I love that you hold all of these different spheres for me. So I think what I admire most about you is how you refuse to be characterized by one thing. You refuse to just be a career woman. You refuse to just be a mom. I love that you are always wanting to evolve and be anything and everything that you could be. So I think that's the thing that I like most about you. I hope that you like your reflection as well, because I'm trying very hard.
I don't wait going to see how I'm looking at you with absolute pride
and adoration. Yeah, it is a nice thing. My mom is older, but there are times that she's staring at me. I'm like, what? It's almost like, I can't believe you're my daughter.
Yes.
It's like, so you
I know exactly the stare you're talking about.
Yeah.
I said to my mom, growing up, my mom never really gave us compliments. But she gave you that look, where you knew, you just felt the pride beaming out of her. And the same with my dad. And there's some teachers as well that have done that in the past.
Yeah.
And it really, it's a warm feeling, I guess.
You're my mommy. Oh, I love my mommy. So, both of you, what is the one decision you wish you had never made in life, and why?
I don't regret anything. I don't regret being married and divorced to the same man twice. I loved both my ex-husbands.
The same one. Yes.
I don't regret it at all. I didn't do it for the children. I did it for me. I did it for our relationship. I'm in a healthy relationship right now, and I'm enjoying it. I think the things I regret most are things that have been done and said in anger, where you know that it's impacting the person receiving it. You can't take some of those things back. I have learned from it. I tried to learn from it. You can't stop being who you are. But there's not much that I regret in terms of decision making. I've lost a lot. Of course, divorce can be very hard. It's hard not only on the immediate family, the family unit, but on the people around you, especially because you build relationships there. I regret that when I got divorced the second time, I don't think I communicated openly enough to my siblings for them to understand the boundary that I wanted to set for healing for my children and I. And they were caught on the back foot, and they didn't understand what it is that they needed to do to bring joy to us and also to try and keep the family together. What do you do now? Divorce impacts the people around you, because they had a good relationship with my ex-husband. He was very much a part of the family. So for them, I didn't consider the impact on them and their family.
They had divorce as well, in a way, isn't it?
Exactly.
I think my biggest regrets have always been like you. I think I can be very quick with my tongue sometimes, and I don't think about how that's going to land with the person that I'm trying to communicate with. So especially, I've got my mom's temper, so when it does boil over, it boils over sometimes. But even then, I think that I'm just trying my best. So I do give myself a bit of grace for trying my best. But like you and with Dad, my parents have never really lived their lives over cautiously, so I don't think that I've got that bone in my body to ever feel scared to do something. And even if I do and it fails, then I tried it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not fatal.
So, yeah. Regrets also just way better than what ifs.
Okay. As mother and daughter, obviously from different generation, what is the one thing that the other does to reveal their generation that cracks you up?
Dude.
Oh, do you still say that? Who says
It's
that?
the language.
Oh.
And especially with my son, I have to decipher what he's saying to me.
Translate?
Good grief, it would be like, sure, Tash. And then I'm like, oh, yes, I'm sure. But he's saying, no, I'm saying it's okay. I'm like, okay, why don't you just say it? And so Liam would have the vocabulary that's both Gen Z as well as, and then he brings other languages into it. So I'm very much caught on the back foot and the laughing stock of the family. And there's things that Skye says that cracks me up, especially when it's swearing at somebody. And I'm like, it completely goes over my head.
You don't even know it's swearing.
I don't receive it.
Oh dear.
I never swear.
You have your own language of swearing, yes.
I think with my mom, it's the old school Sundays, like the music, the cook sisters, the getting up and something is already cooking. It's very funny to come into the kitchen and see you in a duck, because you're doing the spring clean for the week.
And dancing and singing at the same time.
So that's definitely the thing that I love the most about you, but it's hilarious.
The one thing I miss about my dad, who obviously passed on, is we used to love cleaning the house together.
Yeah.
I didn't have a duck though, but as a child, and we started different parts of the house.
Yes.
And then
it is the way.
And then we come together to it, but the music will be. So he used to have, I'm not a jazz person, but he used to like Joe Crocker and all those things. They'll be playing in the background. The one he used to love was Letambuli.
Yes.
Yeah, nobody's over. So I grew up with
You're
those.
making me nostalgic because I'm thinking my younger brother and I, when my nephew was born, my sister had to go back to work and I was still at varsity and as well. And we had to clean up the house when the helper wasn't there. And we'd have the music blaring. And we'd always meet in the kitchen.
Do ask where my mother was? Working. But anyway.
So,
yeah. So what are the two rituals that you both hold dear as mother and daughter that make your relationship healthy and strong?
Definitely communication. Mm-hmm. And we do, and honesty. Honesty is we can be brutally honest with each other, and it hurts sometimes, but it's important. But I think the one thing that we don't compromise on is to spend time together, doing things that even if it's absolute junk TV, we do it together. And
Or mixing drinks.
Firstly, I'm a mixologist.
Yes.
I just can't help that the ingredients are not always there, and then I have to freestyle.
I do like it when you're like doing the mixing.
I also love that she'll just drink whatever it is that I've decided to make.
There's one where the face said, I don't know. And you said, oh, very nice.
So I think for me, it's the spending time together, especially when it's just sitting and doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So that, and I love that we also are very conscious of spending time together. So we also do let's go on a coffee date, or we'll go to yoga together. So doing those things, I think, is also very healthy for our relationship.
No. We can chat forever, but we have to close. So just final wisdom you want to share that we haven't covered so far about stereotypes that we tend to hold in society about either single parenthood or the colored race.
It's a very good and important question. One thing I would say is that not all colored fathers are absent. In my family and my circle of friends and people that I know, many in the community, fathers have been the backbones of their families as much as mothers. My brothers know what it is to change a nappy. My brothers know what it is to take care of their children when their wives, who have also very important and powerful jobs, are working. And they can cook and they can clean up a house and so forth. My cousins are amazing in the kitchen, my male cousins. So I think that's a stereotype I'd like to dispel. And I think that another stereotype is that we have a rich culture, but there's so much more to us than what is put out in the media. You have people that are from all different sectors in our economy, and without the colored race, you just can't have a South African economy that will work. So we need to be taken seriously.
Yes, I think just to piggyback off of your first point, I think that a big stereotype that I would like to dispel is that even where households are not the conventional nuclear family households, the community is so rich with the relationships that are in the community that even if there isn't a father figure, or even if there isn't a father, there's a father figure.
Because the community is part
The
of that.
community steps up. So even if it isn't your biological father, it's your granddad, it's your uncle, it's your friend's dad, it's your friend's uncle, which I think is a big stereotype that I think irks me the most, is that the community is so tight-knit and rich.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people think that there's nothing below the surface.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I must say, the one thing, understanding the sometimes tensions between Africans and colours, whenever I go to Cape Town, the service, the quality of service, for as long as I've been traveling since I was young, whether it's the laundromats I use, or whatever, I mean, it's just, I get and they have the thing of just like being, in a respectful way, submissive, but not because they think they're lower than. It's like, I'm serving you. This is my role at this. That's the one thing I really enjoy about the colored community, especially in Cape Town.
I think that they, like, with anyone, you should take pride in whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
And whether it is just picking rubbish on the side of the road, doing it with pride makes such a difference.
I enjoyed this one.
Same.
Yeah.
So it was a really lovely chat.
Thank you so much.
So much for having us.
Yeah. I mean, I'm passionate about diversity and inclusion. So I'm always conscious that we have to have different voices, even on Wisdom Personified, Conversations with Dudu Msomi. Whenever I see their interaction between Natasia and Skye, I think of the quote that says, having a daughter is God's way of saying, here, thought you could use a lifelong friend. To all mothers and daughters watching this episode, I wish the same for you. Until the next episode, wishing you a life filled with love, compassion, and generosity. Thank you for making time for this episode of Wisdom Personified Conversations with Dudu Msomi. Please like and subscribe to our channel. Click on the bell notification to be informed when our next episode is available. Wisdom Personified Conversations with Dudu Msomi is also now available on Facebook Watch, Apple and Google Podcasts, as well as Spotify. Enjoy the wisdom journey.